Okay, Tyler, looks like we are live here. Let me just maybe give it another 10, 15 seconds or so just to make sure everybody's connecting on and all our audio and everything is working properly. But good morning to you. How are you doing?
Morning. No, good. Excited to see a nice sprint race at Imola. It should be a beautiful morning for a race there in Italy. It looks like the weather's going to hold off for now. So no drama for the weather, but excited to see what happens during the sprint race. How's your morning?
Yeah, not too bad. Got had to take a little extra time to set things up here, which I usually do the night before. But no, it's all good here on this end, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It's the first sprint of 2022, so yesterday's qualifying session, if any of you guys caught it, was quite the mess. I think it actually set the record for most red flags in a qualifying session, I think with five. But it was a pretty kind of hectic session. But like you said, weather's supposed to hold off today. So I'm interested to see how this sprint race will go because Imola's probably, out of all the sprint races that we've had so far, I'd probably say maybe Imola's the one where it's the hardest to overtake.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. You really have to get a good run out of a corner or catch someone off guard to overtake here at Imola. So that's going to be an interesting one to look going forward to see exactly how much overtaking is going to be done here today in the sprint race. And obviously, people might be a little more aggressive because it is a sprint, but at the same time, you do have to save your car for tomorrow.
Yeah, you do. We're going to go through some of the changes as well to the sprint and everything, but like I said, we're just at the beginning of the stream now, so we're just going to wait for a couple of you guys extra to join on as well. If you are watching us, then just drop us a hello or good morning in the chat room. Let us know where you're watching from. We've also got the poll going on in the chat to the right of your screen. If you see there, we just asked the question of who will win today's F1 sprint race, three, or four options, I guess, technically. Whether it's Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, or other. And so far, Charles Leclerc leading that poll with 43% of the votes. Max Verstappen not too far behind. So we're going to get into our predictions very shortly just because we're a little under 13, 14 minutes until the start of this session. But Tyler, let's just run down the grid quickly after yesterday's qualifying session. Now, in the effort to not try and confuse everybody too much, Max Verstappen technically gets the pole position award because yesterday is a natural qualifying session, but not to be confused that the winner of today's race will indeed actually start tomorrow's Grand Prix on pole position. So hopefully that's not too confusing. So looking at the order for today's sprint race, we obviously got Max Verstappen starting on pole with Charles Leclerc alongside him. And then next on the grid, we got Lando Norris, who McLaren had an excellent qualifying session as well. And another driver, Kevin Magnussen in P4, which we'll talk about as well. And then fifth, Fernando Alonso, Daniel Ricciardo in sixth, Sergio Perez in seventh, Valtteri Bottas starting in eighth. He had an issue at the end of qualifying, but still starts in the top 10. Sebastian Vettel for Aston Martin, first top 10 start of this season for them. And then Carlos Sainz, after his crash in Q2, will start in 10th. And then the Mercedes, so George Russell in 11th, Mick Schumacher 12th, Lewis Hamilton in 13th, Zhou Guan Yu in 14th, and the other Alfa Romeo, Lance Stroll starting in 15th place. Disappointingly, the two Alpha Tauris in their home race, 16th and 17th, Sonoda and Gasly, respectively. And then rounding out the last three places, Nicholas Latifi in 18th, Esteban Ocon 19th, and Alex Albon in 20th. Those last two drivers, Albon and Ocon, having some issues which prevented them out in qualifying. So standout performers, I have to say, Tyler, is just the ones we mentioned off the top there. Lando Norris, Kevin Magnussen. They're in pretty good positions here to start tomorrow's race, almost in the top four once again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be interesting to see if they can hold those positions with a hard charging Alonso, Ricardo, Perez, and of course Carlos Sainz starting 10th. So I'll be interested to see if Norris and Magnussen can hold those positions and to see how much race pace, especially those McLarens have. We know the Haas is decently quick, but the McLarens have been on and off so far this season, and we really haven't seen them at the top of the grid be able to hold position yet so far this season. So we'll see what turns out for Lando Norris. He's a very good driver. Let's see if he can get defensive and get his elbows out.
Yeah, it seems like the Bahrain and Saudi kind of combination was an outlier. They are starting to get better, but we need to wait a few more races until we see what the form is really like. But I was really impressed by Kevin Magnussen, and I was worried that he was potentially going to lose that position because he did cause the red flag. What was it? I believe in Q3 or is it Q2? I think he caused the red flag.
Q2, I believe. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, it was one of those, but I think they were saying that the regulation was stating that if you cause a red flag, that you wouldn't be able to rejoin the session. But of course, and just shout out to him, he did a phenomenal job if you guys paid attention closely, where he kind of, let up on the brake pressure a little bit and accelerated just to get through the gravel trap and get himself onto some pavement, which really saved his qualifying in the end. So, very smart driving from him. But I'm glad that he was able to keep the position, and he'll be starting in fourth place as well. Perez kind of got caught out by the red flags, which is why he's down in seventh. So it's going to be tricky, though, as we get into kind of our predictions here for this little sprint race. Imola is a very difficult track to overtake, and luckily it is dry today, so they should be able to get some more action other than we would in the wet. But it's kind of one of those sprint races where it's going to be tough to kind of move up. You're going to have to take some risks, but it's a question of guys like Sergio Perez. How much risk do you take knowing you got the full GP tomorrow?
Oh, that's exactly it. I mean, if you're a lower tier car, I would say like Bottas, Vettel, even Alonso, Magnussen, you might take a little more of a risk knowing that, you want to be as high up as you can. But if you're someone, as you mentioned, higher up fighting for a championship, Verstappen, Leclerc, even Perez and Carlos Sainz, you think you might be a little more cautious, but you can't, in saying that, you can't risk having a low starting grid position for tomorrow for the fact that it is tough to overtake here. So, going to be an interesting balance, and it's going to be interesting to see what tires these drivers start on as well. Christian Horner was just saying that he thinks that the softs are a little won't last long enough in the sprint race, but the mediums might be a little too hard for the sprint race. So it's going to be interesting to see who goes on what tire during today's sprint race.
Yeah, and of course, it's kind of obviously an FP2 was a little bit of the trial runs there, and you had George Russell actually finishing in P1, but of course, FP2 times not very representative of what we're going to get, possibly, maybe not in today's race, but at least in the big race on Sunday. So let's get into our predictions then. Of course, 43% of our fans in our poll think that Charles Leclerc will win today's sprint race, and I'm going to agree with them on this one. Just based on the fact that actually the most successful starting grid position in Imola is second place. We saw that. No, last year was Max Verstappen from third, obviously making the run, but we do have quite a long run down to turn one there, and I think that anything can happen. So I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc winning this one as well, and I'm going to say that Kevin Magnussen ends up finishing in the top three to start third for tomorrow's Grand Prix. So what do you think?
I like that. Interesting. Well, I was just listening. Felipe Massa thinks Carlos Sainz is going to win the sprint race.
Okay.
So that would be pretty wild. I'm not sure what Felipe is seeing there,
Yeah.
but for me, I'm going to go Max Verstappen is going to win the sprint race. Personally, I think he's going to get a good start, and that Red Bull will get its elbows out. Max Verstappen's very good at defending, so if he can get through turn one ahead of Charles Leclerc, I think we'll have the sprint race taken care of. And I like to see Carlos Sainz get up to P5. That would be my prediction for him. Sergio Perez in P6. And I'm going to say Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo will be in P3 and P4. And P5 will be Lando Norris. So kind of an interesting switch around there. I think Lando might drop down a little bit. But nothing too crazy. Actually, I have high expectations for Kevin Magnussen today too, Chris.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, no, he's looked good all weekend, especially in kind of changeable conditions, especially in the wet there. He looks really competitive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what he can do. So we'll just give you guys a. Oops, sorry about that. I got the just loading up my F1 TV. If you guys heard that audio in the background. But anyways, I was going to just quickly explain some of the changes for this year if you guys didn't catch our A to Z guide for this weekend's Grand Prix. So roughly the same format as last year. The big changes being the point scoring system. So last year we obviously only had the top 3 scoring points versus this year where we have the top 8 scoring points. So it's basically a sliding scale. So first place getting 8 points and then P8 getting 1 point. So obviously just going down 1 point all the way down there. So what do you think of that change? I mean, it makes kind of sense, right? I mean, last year it gives more incentive for drivers to be a little bit more aggressive, more points on offer. I don't mind them dishing out a little bit more points this year for it.
No, neither do I. I think they needed to do something because the whole 3-2-1. I mean, if you finished P4, what was the point of the race really? There wasn't as much incentive. Obviously, the higher starting grid for the next race, but that incentive just wasn't there for those drivers who were fighting lower down in the grid, where an extra point all the way down to P8. I mean, we could see some nice battles going down further away from the top of the grid. So I'm really interested to see about that and how this kind of plays out. And I mean, hopefully it's going to lead to better racing in the sprint races. We did see some great racing last year in the sprint races, but hopefully leads to even better ones this year.
I hope so too. And we saw the balance last year of drivers, not being too aggressive at certain points, but you can look at guys like the Red Bull boys, especially on Max Verstappen's standpoint. You really want to kickstart this championship and start to claw back some of those points. So you need to be a little bit more, I think, aggressive than you would be. But obviously, like you said, keeping in mind the big race tomorrow, because that's where obviously the big points are handed out. But with now having 8 points available, it's a significant amount of points if you're able to essentially sweep the whole weekend. We saw it last year how big Silverstone was, for example, with the events that unfolded. But I think that now with the 8 points available for the winner and even more for other places as well, it just gives us a little bit more to play with. So we've got the opening credits starting to roll here, at least on my end on F1 TV. If you guys are new to the stream or our streams and how we kind of do this, we're going to bring up the live data in the middle of your screen there. So that will be obviously the updated positions and timing gaps and everything like that. If that ever happens to freeze, because I know it happened once last year, just let us know in the chat, because sometimes we end up getting caught up here and we don't see it. So of course we're not going to be able to sync everybody's stream perfectly with our commentary, so we're going to try not to do necessarily a direct commentary on all the action, but our stream might be behind or a little bit ahead from wherever you are in the world, but we make it work here on this Saturday morning in Ottawa, Canada. Thanks everybody for joining us, those of you that are watching and those of you that are supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we're looking forward to this race as well. So they're just going through now the opening graphics screens. And the beautiful Imola circuit, not too far from the city of Bologna. And it's essentially kind of the home race for AlphaTauri as well. I mean, their factory is pretty much just up the road from the circuit. And actually, Fiorano, Ferrari's home base, is closer in Imola than it is to Monza, interestingly enough. I did not know that.
Yeah, fun fact as well. Haas gets most of their cars made at Dallara, which is just down the road as well. So it's kind of a mini home race for Haas.
Yeah. Yeah, what are they calling it this year? The white Ferrari?
Yes, the white Ferrari, yes.
I just, I found that funny that the last year or the last 2 years, nobody ever said anything about, the partnership. And then as soon as the car is good, then people start complaining.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, Haas's own parts on that car as well. I think that people kind of go a little bit overboard with that. But I mean, it's everyone has the right to their own opinion, of course. I mean, we've seen that with Aston Martin in the past, with the Mercedes as well. So
Yep.
it's no matter if your car is good, you're going to get some sort of criticism. Just Jolenda saying hi from the Netherlands. Hello. Great to see the Netherlands tuning in on this lovely Saturday, what would be afternoon for you down in the Netherlands. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you're cheering for a Max Verstappen sprint race victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you saying hello. And we are almost ready to go here. So I will be pumping in some FX race sounds in the background just to make it a little bit more lively here in the commentary booth here in Ottawa, Canada. But if it happens to bother you guys, or maybe you want the volume a little bit adjusted, then just let us know in the chat. We've got that open here as well. And no surprise, yeah, thinking that Max will win. Yeah, Tyler agrees with you. Oh, we got another viewer that's chiming in saying hello from Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland.
Good afternoon to you. Appreciate that.
Home of Rory McIlroy in golf. That's my extent of Northern Ireland sports.
Yeah. No, I always love when our fans tell us where they're watching from around the world. It's pretty cool to see, people from all across the world, Europe and North America, and we've had African viewers chiming in as well. Oh, and we got slow to get away there. Alpine.
Yeah.
Was that Ocon? Or
That would
no?
be Fernando Alonso that high up in the grid. So hopefully just a small bog down for Alonso and nothing serious. Just hit the anti-stall and can get his grid position back.
So 100-kilometer race ahead of us here. Of course, you got the rules on your screen as well. So no mandatory pit stops. Of course, free tire choice as well. And I don't know, Tyler, did we miss the tire selection from the teams? I guess we're seeing a lot of them on softs in the top 10 at least, by the looks of
Yeah,
it.
they didn't put them on screen, which was interesting. I'm not sure why they didn't do that, but I think I've seen mostly softs. I've seen a couple medium tires. I'm not sure if that's Perez is on the softs. Maybe it was Magnussen that was on the mediums. Um, but I guess we'll get a good sense of when they actually grid up what the actual tire allocation will be for each driver. Zimbabwe, Michael watching from Zimbabwe. That's a pretty cool spot over there. I've always wanted to go to Zimbabwe.
Oh, shout out to you, Michael. Yeah, appreciate that. Good afternoon to you as well. And hope you enjoy the race in Zimbabwe. Hopefully you guys will get a race of your own there in Africa, hopefully South Africa. I know Kailami's been thrown around in the discussion for new circuits as well, so very cool.
John tuning in from Boulder, Colorado.
Boulder's a hell of a place in Colorado. I've heard plenty great stories from Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
All right, guys, here we go. We're getting set now. Cars doing their burnouts as they get set to the grid.
Let's see if I can pick up who's on what tire. Max is going to be on the sauce. That I can see.
So I actually got it here, Tyler, on the F1 timing. They're showing
awesome.
the only driver starting in the top 10 on the medium being Kevin Magnussen. If this
Okay,
is
so
accurate.
I was right. So it was Kevin Magnussen I saw on the medium. So that's going to be really interesting to see what plays out there with Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah. Michael, I'm just seeing your latest comment there. Look, that there's hoping on a circuit in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe soon. I don't know about that circuit. I'm going to have to actually take a look at that as well. So, yeah, thanks for that. I'll check that out. So it would be great to get yourself a home race as well there.
Oh, Team Radio. Oh, Latifi saying that one of the AlphaTauri's brakes are going to catch on fire in front of him. Well, that's not good. Obviously, we saw what the Williams and Alex Albon's brakes on fire does to a car, destroys the back end. So nice of Latifi to let the AlphaTauris know. And as the green flag waves behind these drivers.
There you go. Leclerc pipped him right off the start. So far, so good. Clean through the first couple of corners.
Great start from Sergio Perez. He's up to 5th already.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be getting a replay there of what happened to Max because he definitely bogged down a little bit at the start there. But great start there from Charles Leclerc, and that's exactly what he wanted to start this weekend as well as they're going through.
And we saw Fernando Alonso bog down on that formation lap, and he bogged down again during the start.
Yeah, and we've been hearing a lot about this from teams in 2022 talking about how the start procedures are a little bit more complicated than they were in because of the new cars.
Yeah, they have talked about that. So I'm not sure if we had Fernando. Oh, yellow flag, sector 2. Zhou Guanyu off the track.
Ooh.
And that back end is destroyed. Ooh, safety car out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're going to be getting a break in the action here. Safety car. I wonder, that's probably not going to red flag it. Of course, this is a race, but we'll get the replay soon here.
Oh, looks like some contact with an AlphaTauri as well. It's Pierre Gasly. Looks like he has a flat. Yeah, flat right tire. Front right, I should say, for Pierre Gasly.
Oh yeah, that's gone.
See, yeah, that's contact, and that's a spin for Zhou Guanyu.
So this was going through Piratella.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And that's a good hit for Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah, there's nothing he could do after he got spun around there.
It's the first time we've really seen a tire without the hubcap there.
Yeah, already. Yeah, it didn't take long there for to get some safety car action. It's the issue because again, Imola is a old school circuit, meaning that it's very narrow, and these things do happen.
Mm.
So we got a little bit of pause in the break in the action. So let us know in the chat, guys, what you thought of that. At least 6 corners or 9 corners to start that little sprint race, but
Yeah, and who's at fault, do you guys think? Is that
yeah.
a racing incident? Is that Gasly, or is that Zhou Guanyu? I mean, for first glance for me, I thought that was a racing incident. That's going around the corner like that. They seem to be, right beside each other and just making a slight contact. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Gasly get a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. The new stewards this year, the new race director, anyways, have been pretty strict and by the book as what they've been applying the rules. So here we are on lap 2 of 21. Let's see how many race laps we actually get. But here's a replay of the start, at least what's going on my end here. So you see Charles Leclerc just get much better traction off the blocks there, and almost Verstappen getting mugged there by Lando Norris.
Yeah, Verstappen really did not have a good start, and it was the same with Fernando Alonso back behind him. Really, the only person who had a good start on that left-hand side was Lando Norris, who, of course, as you mentioned, almost got Max Verstappen as well. So let's just see. Oh, they're covering his revs.
Yeah, he's complaining of gear sync issues. I don't know if you saw there, Tyler, just in the back of the picture there in the replay. I'm not sure if we're going to see Perez, but he was so close to contact on the inside of the turn number 1.
Well, we might see it here with Daniel Ricciardo. So I know he did go up the inside of Ricciardo here. Or pardon me, sorry. Let's see if oh no, he wasn't there.
Coming on the
Ricciardo
outside.
and Magnussen, a little bit of contact. Here's a Fernando Alonso really bogging down once more, and yeah, you can see he had nothing on his second phase really, and he got pipped by 2-3 cars.
Oh yeah, So
yeah, they did.
All 3 of them made contact. Actually.
Oh wow. Yeah, so that's why Ricciardo got kind of shunted into Magnussen, if anything.
It's interesting we're seeing so many drivers struggle even off the soft tire at the start.
Yeah, that is surprising. And the one who was on the mediums, Kevin Magnussen, had a pretty solid start. Was able to keep his own. The other two, just for you guys know, I'm sure you guys see it on your time screens if you're watching the race, but Schumacher and Latifi, the other 2 cars on medium tires for this sprint race. So it'll be interesting to see how those drivers do at the end of the sprint race. I'd say maybe about lap 15, those might start to come in.
Yeah. So lap 3 of 21. Yeah, and let us know, guys. Like Tyler said, who did you think was at fault in that accident? Let us know in the chat while we still got this break under the safety car period. We've got the Aston Martin safety car leading the pack, and I bring it up because the safety car was a talking point after the last race in Australia, saying that the Aston Martin safety car is actually around 5 seconds a lap slower than the Mercedes AMG GTR, which is they kind of share the safety car duties depending on which circuit they go to, but it was really an issue under the safety car period in Australia because of obviously the lack of speed and the ability to build tire temperature. And I think that in Imola it might be even worse because the temperature is a little bit cooler than it was in Australia. So haven't heard any radios yet of guys complaining, but we'll see if that's a talking point again. Another replay of Zhou Guanyu. Team radio?
Yeah, I was just listening to that. I think that was Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I think that's a racing incident. They're both going for the same spot right there.
I would agree. Here we go.
Just mentioning about the safety car there, of course, the drivers are calling the Aston Martin safety car the Turtle.
Oh, that's right.
Which is interesting because obviously it's in Korean, and it does look like a shell as well. So we'll see how the Turtle does out there at the Grand Prix. But you know what? I saw this on Twitter. I thought as well, Mick Schumacher and Bottas having a little bit of rubbing and racing there. I saw on Twitter, and they were living back from the 90s, the safety cars of the 90s, and their little Ford Escorts or pickup trucks, and it's just terribly slow. I'm like, let's bring one of those back and see if they'll complain for a race. Maybe they'll appreciate the old Aston Martin a little bit more. But yeah, I thought it was pretty funny seeing that.
Well, it's funny because Verstappen was even saying that after the race that he didn't want to complain because he saw how much Bernd Mailander was drifting, because how much he was pushing.
That's funny. Hey, Burt Mylander's he's a quick driver as well. So,
No
he's
doubt.
pushing that thing to his to the limits.
Okay, so safety car is ending. It will be in this lap, and we are ready to go racing once again, hopefully. So let's see how quickly Charles Leclerc guns it out of Piratella 2, or if he's just going to wait until the last safety car line. But this is a very long straight going into turn 1.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see.
I think he's gone. He's gone
Just fix
already.
my glasses there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's going right out of Piratello too. So let's see what the slipstream effect is like on Verstappen.
Yeah, that's very
Obviously,
smart
no
driving.
DRS. Yeah,
Okay, let's see if we can get settled in here and get some... Oh, that's a huge moment there for Alonso coming out of turn number
whoa,
2.
and Science is gonna have him.
Whew.
Oh no, nice late braking from Alonso. I was wrong. Really
Yeah.
good job by Alonso to recover there.
Of course, the two countrymen, Carlos Sainz chasing his idol and hero, Fernando Alonso, but smart driving there from Fernando. Oh, and
Black and white
yeah,
flag for Magnussen weaving on the straight. So, of course, black and white flag is just a warning. Don't do that again, or you get penalized next time. So, a stern warning for Kevin Magnussen.
yeah, and that's not surprising because Lance Stroll got a penalty for that in Australia. So, like we mentioned
Yeah,
before,
I didn't even see really that penalty in Australia either. I was kind of confused of where that even came from. So,
yeah. So they're gonna be showing. Okay, here it is.
is this the weaving?
Yeah, I mean,
It is going toward Lando's doing it too. I mean, I don't know. There's a few drivers weaving back
yeah.
behind there. So,
I think it would have helped to show it in real time instead of
yes.
slow motion, but. So, lap 6 then of 21. Charles Leclerc leading out front, 1.1 second gap to Max Verstappen. Lando Norris holding down the final podium, or I guess not podium for this race, but you get what I'm saying. Third place for McLaren. Kevin Magnussen in fourth, the only driver in the top 10 running on that medium tire, followed by Sergio Perez, Daniel Ricciardo in sixth. Fernando Alonso lost some positions at the start, so he's in seventh place. Carlos Sainz made up 2 positions, and he is up into 8th. Sebastian Vettel staying there in ninth, and Valtteri Bottas rounding out the top 10 there, kind of getting mixed up in that early scrum between Zhou Guanyu and Pierre Gasly. Zhou Guanyu out of this sprint race if you're just joining us, and Pierre Gasly had a puncture which sees him down in last place.
Just seem to be settling into the Grand Prix now, which is nice. Getting a little bit of an idea of where the order is going to lay out. And as we mentioned, not as crazy amount of overtaking going on here in Imola. So we'll see exactly how this will play out as Carlos Sainz looks to try and get his countrymate, Fernando Alonso, down the straight. He's going to go over to the outside, and with that porpoising, does clear Alonso and moves up into P7. So a nice move there from Sainz, and bouncing away, he finally got that car settled for the corner.
Yeah, and speaking of porpoising, just because you said it, would do an update here on Mercedes, who were struggling from some awful porpoising yesterday. You got Lewis Hamilton down in 15th place, and his teammate George Russell only in 12th.
Yeah, Stroll and Tsunoda getting by Lewis Hamilton there. So that's an interesting one to keep a look at as well. I mean, Lewis Hamilton really struggling here today, and Esteban Ocon's right behind him. And then you have the 2 Williams who possibly could get him as well. So, concern definitely for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton and George Russell as well.
Yeah, and that means that they're not going to be in a good starting position for the race tomorrow. It's already difficult to overtake, but the battle here that we're looking at currently, which is for the battle for 4th place, Sergio Perez coming down the long straight here on Kevin Magnussen, and yes, easy overtake in the end for Checo.
DRS open and everything. And with Kevin on those medium tires, I'm sure not let him catch up to Sergio Perez. And when those soft tires do go out for Red Bull, I don't know if Magnussen will be in the proper area to be able to attack with those medium tires.
Yeah. Yep, got the move done before even braking.
Yeah, nice and easy one. And of course, there were questions, I think last year, was it, or the year before, about the DRS zones at Imola, and they shortened them. I think that was last year that they shortened them from the year before. So just the one DRS zone, of course, as well in Imola.
Yep. So a lot of midfield battles going on here, but just a quick update out in front. The gap between Leclerc and Verstappen holding pretty steady at 1.2 seconds. We saw it go down to as little as 9/10 just 2 laps ago, but it seems like Leclerc is managing that pace, or is Verstappen just taking care of his tires a little bit and looking to attack in the end here, as Valtteri Bottas, speaking of attack, is looking to make a move on Vettel in a place that wasn't very friendly to him last year, but gets it done nice and smooth this time around.
Yeah, and it's interesting with those Aston Martins. Obviously, fortunate of the weather scenario yesterday, with Vettel getting up and qualifying in P8. But now you're kind of starting to see the pace of that Aston Martin not where they want it to be, of course. So lots of concern in Aston Martin of what exactly is going on. And Mick Schumacher's going to try and have a go at his one of his idols in Sebastian Vettel.
Yep.
One of his mates.
Yeah, mates, yeah. Yeah, guys, if you are watching, we are taking a look at the chat. We got just a new message there from Yolanda, who's saying, "Come on, Perez." So even though from the Netherlands, still cheering on for Max's teammate as well, Sergio Perez. He's made up 3 places so far in this sprint, up into 4th, and I'm looking at what the gap here is to Norris. It's about a second at the moment, so very much at play for him to get 3rd.
I'm impressed with the McLaren so far here today. They're definitely keeping their own pace. They look like to be in a lot better shape than they were a few races ago. So very positive to see out of the McLarens. Let's see with DRS if Sainz can close in here on Ricciardo, but Ricciardo with DRS on his own, trying to make a move on Magnussen, but doesn't make it work. We'll see. Have to wait for another corner to see, or another lap, I should say, to see if this happens again.
And this is really going to help Carlos Sainz here, because Magnussen is backing Ricciardo right into Sainz, who obviously has arguably the fastest car on the grid along with his teammate Leclerc. So I think he's going to be patient here going through Piratella and then Acqua Minerale, and then we'll set up the move into the DRS zone on the start-finish straight.
More evidence that these cars can follow each other as well, which is pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, and you just kind of saw it there at the front picture of that screen. Perez is really, really closing in on Lando Norris.
I think he'll get that move done going down the main straight. So 3/10 just behind of Norris. So I'm sure that will happen very easily down the main straight. And we'll see how this battle, this 3-way battle, turns out here on the main straight as Ricciardo and Sainz look to try and get past Kevin Magnussen. DRS open for Ricciardo and Sainz.
Oof. Nicely done there from Daniel Ricciardo.
King of the late breakers, they call him, and gets a move done and can try and pull away a little bit from Sainz. And I mean, Sainz will be pushing again. Like has the fastest car on the grid right now. So Ricciardo will have to try and scoot away as fast as he can. And for Sainz, it's very important to try and get past Magnussen as quick as possible here.
And just an update.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say an update. Just ahead of this battle, Sergio Perez has overtaken Lando Norris, so he is now in P3 behind his teammate.
I was going to mention, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not these medium tires are the right tire choice from Haas. We do see Madison slowly going down the order here, but will his tires start to come into shape later on? I mean, maybe 4 or 5 more laps, and he can start making progress back toward the front of the field again. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep note of as well.
Well, it's interesting just looking at this onboard from Science. It seems like Magnussen is sliding around a lot more than even the soft tire runners. So maybe
Well, if you take a look at the other two medium runners, his teammate Mick Schumacher, who is right now just behind Vettel, but hasn't made any progress at all. And there you see Carlos Sainz making a nice, easy move around Kevin Magnussen to go up into P6. And the other medium tire runner, Nicholas Latifi, is currently sitting 19th last running. So I'm not sure the medium tire right now is the right tire to be on.
And we're going to get a replay now of Perez overtaking Norris for P3. So, yeah, this was also heading down to turn 1.
DRS open, and a nice wave as Perez flies by. Easiest as you'll ever. That might be the easiest overtake of Perez's career.
Yeah, nice and smooth, no drama. So out in front, Verstappen's still chasing down Charles Leclerc here. Gap is at 1.5, so looks pretty comfortable out in front. Less than 10 laps to go. But it's still definitely not over yet. We'll just see which driver has the most tire left here as we go with the onboard visor cam, which is... I really loved the visor cam yesterday during the wet conditions. I think it was really cool seeing the rain kind of, off of the visor, which was really nice.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. And he also had, I think it was Leclerc calling for the rain X and everything as well. And you got to see that in action, which was pretty cool. So, no, it just very cool visor cam. I'm glad they finally got this into F1. We've seen this in NASCAR and we've seen it in IndyCar for years. And now finally it's made its way into F1.
Yolanda says, "Don't. Max will wait. Don't worry." Well, I definitely won't worry about that. He waited until the very last lap of the last race last season, so...
Yeah.
The tricky thing about this track is, as we're seeing in this race and probably won't change for tomorrow, is you really only have the one area to, really try overtakes, which is obviously this main straight going down into turn 1, because it's very difficult to overtake really at any other area of the track. You could down into the hairpin after the Villeneuve chicane, but it's very tricky, very, very difficult to try and get a move done.
Yeah, it really is. It's a classic track, and with those classic tracks, you do see it being tough to overtake. So, of course, lots of good nostalgia with Imola, and I love Imola. I think it's a fantastic track.
Same.
But it is a problem with the overtaking, as Carlos Sainz, holy cow, he's jumping out of his seat. That's how much he's porpoising. Gets by Ricardo.
It's just crazy how it doesn't affect them, and like other analysts are looking at, by the time they hit the brakes and get into the corner, that bouncing just really settles nicely, and they've got the proper balance through the corners. But imagine if they get that issue sorted out. I mean, are they going to be much faster? Or
yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see who solves the porpoising the best. I thought they would be able to solve it by now. I'm not going to lie, how smart all these F1 engineers are. I thought they would have it sorted by race 4 and race 5, but no, not yet. They see Carlos Sainz. I hope he had some sort of cushion underneath his butt, because his back and butt are going to be very sore at the end of this sprint race of this weekend.
Well, honestly, when you look at the Red Bull, for example, they seem to minimize the porpoising, at least of the front runners, the most, from visually what I could tell. But their biggest problem is the fact that they're so overweight. I think the last thing that I heard, that they were 10 kilos heavier than the Ferrari, which is why they're losing so much time and performance. But yeah, it's just such a polar opposite when you watch Ferrari and then when you watch Mercedes. But Mercedes obviously affected the most by it, because just an update on them, they're Lewis Hamilton still in 14th, George Russell still in 12th, so not really able to make any inroads.
No, Hamilton did get by Lance Stroll, but now sits behind Yuki Tsunoda.
So we've got the stewards are looking at the incident between Alonso and Bottas.
Weaving on a straight, so it'd be interesting to see if we can get a replay of that.
Yeah, and that's really the battle for position. Oh, we got a team radio.
Okay, Kev, here's the time when the tyres will start to come back to us. So everyone else is going to start dropping off.
So K-Meg's engineer thinks that the soft tire runners are going to start to drop off here, and that it's going to be good for them.
Well, let's hope so for K-Mag's sake. Alonso and Bottas are right on him, and not many points-paying positions left as Mick Schumacher goes up into P10 finally after chasing Vettel down for numerous laps. And maybe after seeing that, that's why the message is relayed to K-Mag about those tires. Of course, his teammate also on mediums tires, and he's got 4.3 seconds to make up on Valtteri Bottas. So we'll see what that gap looks like. And well, here we go, Bottas and Alonso scrapping away. They both should have DRS here as well, so it's going to be a right old battle down to the first quarter. And
Yep.
Bottas last
got
away
him.
breakers. Oh, just gets to... I wasn't sure if he's going to make it to the second corner there, but he did make it. And I don't know if Alonso is going to be able to fight back here. Bottas, well done on that overtake.
Yeah, he's back into P8 where he started this sprint race, and just before that battle you saw there that Alonso also received a black and white flag for weaving on the straight, so a little bit the drivers have to be careful of how they're defending, but the reason why they're weaving so much is just how long the straight is, so they are trying to break a little bit of that DRS effect. But yeah, good for Bottas, back up into 8th place, and that battle ensues for 7th.
I'm thinking something might be wrong with Latifi's car. He's dropping about a second a lap, which is not what we've usually seen out of a proper running Williams car. I'm not sure if it was those medium tires or not, but well, Max Verstappen's closed up here on Carlos Sainz very quickly out of nowhere. He's only 4/10 back.
I was about to jump in there, Tyler, and say, like, well, he's right on his tail now. The gap is less than 0.6 of a second, so if he doesn't make any mistakes, he will have DRS on the run down to turn 1 on lap number 18. And yeah,
you have to wonder if did Leclerc make a mistake somewhere and allowed Max to catch up?
Yeah, and some of the fans in our chat were absolutely right. Don't worry, Max will wait because that gap is now under a second. And you also wonder, was Max just biding his time, looking after his tires, or like you said there, Tyler, was there a mistake? Team radio here.
Okay, Max, 5 laps remain, including this one. I think Leclerc showing some graining on the front right.
So GP reporting a front right graining for Leclerc. That could be the answer to our question there. Here we go.
Could be. And there is those, we were talking about the soft tires, whether or not they'd last.
Nice and clean for both drivers so far out of Piratella 2. Let's see if that Honda power unit or the Red Bull powertrains unit can outmatch the Ferrari here.
Not on this lap, it seems.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he's going to have to wait one more lap here.
And this is what we're seeing, right, of the 2022 cars, is that Max will be able to follow like this probably until the end of the race here, whereas last season, other seasons before, he would have had to back off a little bit, cool down the components, but it looks like he's going to be able to maintain his attack here. But the Ferrari this year, very, very strong in the acceleration zones out of the corners, and that might be keeping Leclerc ahead just at the moment.
Another couple of close battles. Bottas and Alonso are still right behind Magnussen. Magnussen's closed up a bit on Ricciardo as well, but I'm not sure if those medium tires are going to be benefiting him enough here in those last 3 laps here. I don't think it's going to be enough. So right call is definitely the soft tires for this race. I think we figured that out.
Yep, and here we go. Verstappen looks a little bit closer, but he did get a little bit squirmish out of the exit of Piratella 1. I wonder if that will just compromise his run down here against Leclerc with 3 laps to go as the leaders cross the line. He is closing, but I don't think he'll get him this time around. No, not this time.
But you can see how much, and that's Leclerc getting a little bit of oversteer coming out of turn number 2. But you can see how twitchy. Sorry, I should say. I meant to say. You can see how much Verstappen closes up on the last, I'd say 300-400 meters of that DRS zone. So that's going to be where the overtaking is going to happen. And Verstappen's definitely closer than what he was. It's going to be interesting to see if he can stay this close. If he does stay this close, it's going to be an easy overtake for Max.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick update further down
Oh,
the
team
field.
radio.
Yep.
Left-hand toggle is available if you need a bit.
No, just leave me to it. Just leave me to it.
Good old Max.
Yeah, left-hand toggle. I'm not sure what that is. If that's a maybe energy deployment, a differential setting. Not exactly sure. But just before we look at this battle between Leclerc and Verstappen again, Carlos Sainz up into 4th place overtook Lando Norris.
So that's going to be a lead for a nice, interesting battle tomorrow with 2 Ferraris and 2 Red Bulls in the top 4. And here we go, back down the main straight one more time. DRS open for Max Verstappen.
Much closer for Verstappen this time with 2 laps to go.
I think he's going to get him this time.
Yes, and he does get him this time on the outside there, but battle's not done yet.
Did he make his move too early now? Leclerc is going to have DRS going down into the last lap of the race, if he can stay within the 3/10. So let's see.
Very nice driving from the both of them as well. But we've seen that be the successful move today, going around the outside there of turn number 1. Question is here, Tyler, is how much tire life does Charles Leclerc have left?
Yeah, he's really Verstappen's really pulling away from Leclerc right now. He's almost opened that gap up to a second, and if he does, I don't see Leclerc coming over to make that move. So this might be Max Verstappen's sprint race.
Yolanda says, and there he is. You called it. I'll give you credit. You called that perfectly.
Yeah. 1.2 seconds the gap now. I don't think Leclerc is going to come back.
Yeah, race far from over, though. We do have some good battles going on here in the final lap. Alonso chasing Kevin Magnussen. Looks like the top 4 and 5 will hold position, but further down, I mean, they are fighting for the final points-paying positions here.
Oh, team radio.
Does not have DRS.
Mate, please do not talk in the braking.
A nice way to say shut up.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to have most of our grid decided here with the gaps that we're seeing. The only one, maybe Hamilton, might be able to get by Vettel for P13. But that seems to be, maybe Gasly on Alonso, or pardon, not Alonso, on Ocon for P16 as well. But
yeah,
should have our grid set for the Grand Prix tomorrow. And yeah, the 2.5 seconds now. You just have to wonder if Ferrari turned down the engine of Charles Leclerc here, conceded, and just said, let's take care of this engine for 2nd place.
he probably did. He's going to be runner-up today in the first sprint race of 2021. Max Verstappen took his first pole yesterday, and he will cross the line to take his first sprint race victory of 2022. Verstappen finishes first. Charles Leclerc close by in 2nd place. Sergio Perez rounds out the top 3. We'll have a Red Bull, Ferrari, Red Bull top 3 to start tomorrow's race. Further down the field, grid recovery there from Carlos Sainz from 10th going to 4th on the grid. And the 2 McLarens, 5th and 6th, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas in 7th. And the final points-paying position for today going to Kevin Magnussen in 8th place.
So I'm not sure if that saves another set of tires for K-Mag and Schumacher running on the mediums, but we'll be interested to see what the tire choice will be for tomorrow.
Oh, Victory Radio.
That's it, right?
That's it. Well done. Pole position for tomorrow.
Lovely. I didn't hear anything, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's the end. Well done, mate.
Nice and easy day there for Verstappen. A little bit complicated at the beginning, but got the job done as well. Thank you to Yolanda for all your comments, and thank you for joining the stream, as well as everybody else. We're going to be on here for another 5 to 10 minutes or so, just to wrap up the sprint, and also just a quick predictions for tomorrow's race. But very interesting, Tyler. I actually didn't expect Red Bull to be that competitive today, so I think this makes tomorrow's Grand Prix even more interesting.
Yeah, it definitely does. Clearly had the better tire management throughout the race, and that's going to be interesting to play in for tomorrow as well to see exactly how these drivers will manage their tires. But if the Ferraris are grading a little bit more than the Red Bulls, that's something to keep in mind, especially on a track like this.
Yeah, and it might change the strategy for tomorrow's race, although I probably won't see anybody tomorrow, at least in the top 10, starting on the soft, but you never know. We did see a lot of drivers struggling with their getaways, even on the soft tires, so we'll see what the strategy does for tomorrow. I think in terms of weather, it's kind of looking clear and dry at the moment, but there is about a 40% chance of rain, so that's obviously another X factor that you have to take into account.
Yeah, there's nothing like a little bit of rain to throw some chaos into the race. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see if we do get a splash of rain tomorrow or not, to shake things up a little bit more. But if not, I think it'll be a pretty straightforward Grand Prix. I mean, it's going to be a fun one. There always seems to be some sort of curveball here at Imola, no matter what. So it'll be interesting to see what this year's curveball will be.
Yeah, there's always something that happens around this race, but we saw in the sprint, right? I mean, the first lap we have the safety car. It's a very narrow circuit, and when things like that happen, it's very easy to bring out the safety car and then change the whole race around. So very unfortunate though for the likes of Zhou Guanyu, of course, having to start tomorrow's race at the back, which is the risk or the issue with these sprint races when something like that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunate for Zhou Guanyu, the only DNFer of the sprint race. But we'll see. I mean, his teammate Valtteri Bottas up in 7th, so kind of one of those up and down days for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and a great drive as well for Yuki Tsunoda, who went from P18 to P12 in the sprint, kind of matching, if you give a Driver of the Day award, maybe in contention with Carlos Sainz as well, who went from 10th to 4th, which was really key for Carlos Sainz considering the crash that he had yesterday in qualifying. So that should put him in a good position to at least, help his teammate Leclerc. But let's maybe start to slowly wrap up the show here, Tyler, and get into our predictions for tomorrow. So maybe I'll ask you, did this result of the sprint race change your opinion for the race tomorrow?
It did a bit in the sense of Carlos Sainz really came up the grid in this race and impressed me with how well he did. So that's the main thing I took out of it. Yourself?
I would say I was happier or pleased to see that the Red Bull is competitive. And, I kind of thought that after Australia, we may start to see a little bit of a runaway championship here, but it seems like that they're a little bit more evenly matched around this circuit. So the fact that Verstappen was able to follow Leclerc throughout the whole race and then just save that little bit extra for the end tells me that we could be in for another good round of Verstappen and Leclerc tomorrow, which is what I think we're all hoping for. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And then I love how the starting grid is going to line up now with Red Bull, Ferrari, and Carlos Sainz and Perez also going at it as well. So don't count them out at the start, right? I mean, last season in 3rd place, Verstappen got off the line very well and took the lead going into turn 1. So could be Perez doing that this year.
Absolutely could be. Second row is going to be interesting to see. Those two will be hungry to get up into the top 2 positions. So we'll see how the start plays out. Oh, medals. They get some medals for the sprint race. That's nice.
I like the wreaths from last year, like the IndyCar ones that they give out.
Oh, yeah, that was classic. Usually the wreaths, but no, these are medals sponsored by Crypto.com, which is great.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Here's your answer.
Well, they could have sponsored the wreaths too, but oh well. Yeah, so should be a very good race for tomorrow. I think every race this season has been exciting in its own regard, but yeah, good news for McLaren fans as well. 5th and 6th place there as well. So good starting positions for the 2 Papaya cars tomorrow. A little bit disappointing for Kevin Magnussen. I thought that he was going to hold on to a front row grid start at least, but that medium tire choice kind of really backfired on them. So I don't know if that was car specific, but like you were saying, Tyler, it seemed like the medium tire runners today were struggling a bit more. So plenty to learn for tomorrow's race. But yeah, I think the Alfa Romeos, again, Bottas looking competitive. Alonso had some issues at the start. Hopefully he can get those resolved there for tomorrow. But I think that really after the top four, it's going to be kind of a pick'em of who's going to be finishing in those positions.
Yeah, do you want to get into maybe a podium position prediction, Chris?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I was talking about curveballs and how Imola always throws us a curveball. So I have Carlos Sainz winning
Ooh.
tomorrow's Grand Prix. In second, Sergio Perez, and in third, Lando Norris. So what does that might mean for you? Well, that could mean a little bit of a kerfuffle between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. So that's my prediction for tomorrow.
This early in the season, race number 4
This
already?
Imola. It's Imola. It's a tight track. We saw it today. You know, these drivers possibly getting aggressive. So that's gonna be my prediction for tomorrow. Who knows? It probably won't happen, but I'd like to throw a little bit of curveball in there.
Yeah, you're upsetting the Dutch fans there, Tyler.
I am. Sorry, Yolanda.
Yeah, the prediction. Yeah, her prediction is Max Perez and Leclerc for tomorrow's race. So, yeah, I mean, it could happen. Like we see, turn 1 was very close, right? I mean, there was credit to all the drivers; they were very clean racing today. But anything can happen. Throw in a sprinkle of rain as well, and you never know. So, yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna go with my predictions then for the top 2. It's gonna be a very boring one. Verstappen, Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz. I think Carlos Sainz will have a nice little recovery race and will get another podium for this season. But I like your prediction. I mean, I hope Carlos can get back to, the top. I mean, he re-signed for Ferrari this weekend. Hasn't really gone his way so far, but I think I need to maybe predict Carlos more in P1 this year, considering I predicted him to win the championship at the beginning of the year. So
that's very true. And we'll talk about this on the podcast, and I'll save this discussion for the podcast so all of you can kind of get a teaser of what one of the topics to talk about on the podcast. But with Carlos Sainz's new contract, what does that mean for other Ferrari drivers like Mick Schumacher? So that's going to be interesting. We'll talk about that more in the post-race podcast.
No, it is a good point, right? I mean, obviously Leclerc is signed up for quite a long term, and he's delivering on the goods this season, and then Carlos Sainz as well. So I think maybe just quickly to touch on that, it could only be like, let's say if one of those drivers just massively underperformed in the next 2 seasons, that they would potentially bring in a Schumacher or one of their young drivers. But the good thing for young Mick is that he's got time on his side.
Yes. Yeah. And we saw with his dad's career how it started to flourish, a few seasons into his career, and then obviously the rest is history.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think that about does it for the sprint race order and everything like that. Any other kind of drivers that stood out to you for tomorrow, or any other comments as we head into the Grand Prix there tomorrow?
I'm interested to see how the Mercedes will do, whether they can recover or not. They had a pretty lackluster start to the race, but came in a little bit near the end of the race. And let's hope that the strategy of medium tires for today plays out into the favor of the Haas's and Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen. Maybe they'll have an extra set of softs for tomorrow's race. So let's see if that plays a factor, whether this turns into a 2-stop race or not.
Yeah, for sure. And the Mercedes tomorrow, this is obviously the provisional start, but will be George Russell in 11th and Lewis Hamilton down in 14th place. Of course, provisional, barring any sort of penalties or changes to cars and things like that. Of course, we saw plenty of drivers in today's race actually get black and white flags for weaving and things like that. So, I don't think any drivers will be getting grid penalties for tomorrow, but at least it's something to look out for in the Grand Prix. And tomorrow's Grand Prix, of course, will be a much longer race than today, but a lot to play for as well. And Max Verstappen scoring that important 8 points today and just kind of trying to get his championship, trying to salvage his championship defense here. Not over yet, but obviously a big points gap to overcome. But really good job for him today, starting that championship climb back, cut that points lead just a little bit. But tomorrow will be all to play for. So I think that should about do it for us then here on the Backmarkers F1 show live stream for the F1 sprint race in Imola. Tyler, anything else that you wanted to maybe comment on? Maybe it didn't even have to do with today's events, but just F1 related. We still have a little time here.
Not that I can think of. I'm using your Sebastian Vettel coaster that you gave me, so thank you very much for that. I was kind of trying to give Sebastian Vettel a little bit of luck today, but it didn't happen. So Hopefully he can recover tomorrow. Maybe I'll have to use a different coaster tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, I've got one here. I don't know. I know you can't see me on Zoom, but at least on the live stream, it's my Mick Schumacher coaster here. We got going there, so that's holding my my water there. And actually, I've got maybe what just to show. I've got the Fernando Alonso one as well. That's oh, I don't want to drop that. That's holding my coffee here off to the right of me. So we got the Fernando one as well. So yeah, little F1 inspired coasters there just for the house. But we do have some extra ones. So at some point this season, guys, we will be doing some sort of giveaways. Probably during one of these streams, actually, just to give you guys a thank you and an appreciation for joining us on these streams. So of course, stay tuned to that. But yeah, they come in handy, I think.
Oh, they definitely do. I use them every day. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that'll about do it then for us for this morning here on this Saturday. Maybe just quick updates for the channel. As you mentioned there, Tyler, of course, post-race following the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, we will have our Backmarkers F1 Show podcast, which will be coming out probably around Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on our schedules. But it is not a back-to-back this weekend, so even if it is a day later than usual, that's okay. So pay attention to that. I'll probably try and get some sort of video out on the Monday morning following the race, depending on what happens in the race. So that's usual kind of schedule for us. And then later in the week, actually, I'm starting to get prepared for a Miami Grand Prix circuit guide video because Miami is the next race following this one. And as you all know, Miami's brand new. It's even brand new to me. I'm learning a lot about it as we speak. So I want to get that out to you guys just a little bit earlier so you can get familiar with the track. And I am collaborating actually with a couple of other YouTube channels just to help me out with some footage of the circuit and hot laps and things like that. So should be a pretty good video and a very interesting track. I'm not sure, Tyler, how much you've taken a look at it, but it's kind of hit or miss whether it's going to be good or bad.
Yeah, I haven't really had an in-depth look at it, so I'll save that for maybe some research, and we'll talk about it during our podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, pretty busy time here for everybody here at the Backmarkers F1 show, but nonetheless, we always provide the content. So just lastly, want to thank everybody for joining us here on this stream. Yeah, thank you, Yolanda, and everybody else who chimed in on the chat. Even everybody who watched but didn't communicate with us through the chat room. We really do appreciate it. I just quick glance at the numbers. We had quite a lot of you guys in here this morning, which is awesome. So if you want to see more of these live streams, once this video is done processing, comment down below. We try and do them as much as possible, especially on these special sprint race weekends. Of course, with time zones difference and schedules, it's always a little bit tricky, but we try and get it together. So we really appreciate all of you guys joining it because it really makes these streams go by a lot easier when there's a lot of fan interaction. So thank you to all of you. If you're new and you really like what you saw here, please check out the rest of our content, subscribe to the channel, and guys, whether you're subscribed, you're new or you're old, just make sure to enable those notifications because YouTube makes it a little bit tricky to find our videos sometimes. So if you hit that notifications, you'll always be able to find our videos. So Tyler, last word from you, and then we'll sign off for today.
Oh, thank you. As Chris said, thank you everyone for joining, and it's great to see a lot of you in the chat and watching here today. So that's awesome to see. And like Chris said, hopefully we'll be able to get some more live streams down in the future, especially for these sprint races. They're lots of fun to do live streams on.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun this morning, and hopefully everybody out there will have a good rest of your Saturday, and then we'll enjoy the race tomorrow on Sunday. Check out all of our social media links in the description down below. We also have our sponsor for our podcast, the GP Box, which also applies to you guys watching on the stream as well. So check out the description for some special discount codes to the GP Box, which is a motorsport marketplace website. So thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. Tyler McDonald, thank you very much for joining me again this morning. I'm Chris Cato. Until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great day.